Hi folks, Matt here from House of BBQ Experts. Picture this, you just found out that you're having people over tonight, but you haven't planned anything. So to help you out, we're teaching you how to make pulled pork on short notice. Pulled pork is a go-to recipe for most people as it's fairly simple to do. Obviously, you can do it the traditional way, which means it's going to take you between 8 to 10 hours, depending on the size of the cut you're using. Today, we're using a deboned bustin' butt. We're doing it the fast way, however. So that means that the technique is a little bit different than the traditional way. If we go step by step, obviously, we want to smoke the butt, but we don't have the full 3-hour window as we would with a long, low and slow process. So to make it quicker, we'll be using the hot and fast technique. So the strategy behind it is just to shorten out the smoke period and optimize at a higher temperature the rest of the cook. So the first step in the process is we are going to inject with Butcher's Barbecue pork injection. This is going to add a lot of flavor, a lot of moisture as well in the meat for the smoking period and also throughout the whole process. So you want to inject every inch and a half in a grid pattern to make sure that the injection is spread out evenly in the cut. Once that's done, you're going to pat dry the excess moisture that's coming out of the injection. That injection is not going to be working on the outside of the butt, so it's best to just take it off and make sure that we really build some crust and some real nice rub with the sweet Kansas. So we're using sweet Kansas rub because it's got a really good, sweet, yet savory flavor profile that I really appreciate in my pulled pork. It's by far my favorite rub for this specific recipe. If you have that luxury, let the rub sit for about 45 minutes just so the salt in it really draws out the moisture out of the bustin' butt to make sure that it really sticks on the surface. Now for the cooking process. So today we're using the Camp Chef SGX, which is a pellet grill. So we're going to be smoking for the first 2 hours at 225, 235 to make sure that we get as much smoke inside the meat in a shorter period. So what's great about the SGX is you can configure the smoke profiles to have a thick smoke inside the barbecue to give it as much smoke profile inside the bustin' butt as possible. Obviously, inside 2 hours, your meat's not gonna be done, let's face it. So there's no reason whatsoever for you to open up the lid on your barbecue by then. Just try to optimize that smoking window and keep it as moist and smoky as possible. After 2 hours, that's where we're going to be using a kind of a shortcut. So we're going to be wrapping the bustin' butt inside aluminum foil and also adding a little bit of honey and also half a cup of the injection, or you can also use apple juice with apple cider vinegar or even beer. Just use some kind of liquid just so it adds moisture and also helps the bustin' butt break down a little bit more throughout the rest of the cooking process. So once the bustin' butt is wrapped up, we're going to be throwing it back on the barbecue, this time at a temperature of about 295. So we really ramped up the temperature to make sure that it cooks faster, but as we added moisture inside the aluminum foil, there's no risk for us to dry out the meat. Today we're using a 4-pound, nearly 5-pound bustin' butt, so we're shooting for a cooking period of a total of about 5 to 6 hours. That said, you're no longer cooking to temperature. We're cooking really to texture. So obviously you will be keeping an eye on your internal temperature just as a guideline. So you know that about 203, 205, it should be soft enough to be shredded, but the best way to know it is really just to probe it with a thermometer and it should have little to no resistance whatsoever. So like I said, use the temperature as a guideline, but the truth itself lies in the texture and resistance you're going to be going for, which means none. So now that we've hit that mark, that 304, 305 mark, and it's soft, buttery kind of texture, so we removed it from the smoker and now we gotta give it some rest. So a good rule of thumb is to let it rest for 1/3 of the cooking time. That way, you really make sure that the juices inside are spread out evenly. Also, if you're not sure, personal tip, I will probe it back and make sure that it hit back to at least 140 so that the temperature has been dropping progressively and that it's also not too warm that I can shred it more easily without getting burnt. So it took us just under 5 hours to get this done, and it's cooked perfectly. So we've let it rest for about 30-40 minutes, and now it's time to shred. So using the shredders, it was super easy to shred, even though it was still pretty warm. Once the meat has been shredded, we've added some sweet Kansas rub. Afterwards, we went on and added a decent amount of sauce. So today we're using the Sweet Dream Baby Mama, which is a sweet and fruity sauce. I like it a lot. It fits perfectly with the sweet Kansas. Mixed everything all together, dressed up the plate, and that is it. So as you can see, it is super simple, nice and easy, no hassle, nothing much to clean around. It also yields a lot of meat, so you can feed a lot of people in no time. This is why it's one of my go-to recipes to have people over unnoticed. I hope this helps. Obviously, if you want recipes, tips, and tricks, follow our Facebook page, Instagram page, reach out, we'll answer. Until then, enjoy your next barbecue.